What is up, boys? Welcome back to the channel. We are hitting up the HELLCAT a little bit today, a little bit about the wiring. Some of you guys, I know it's a little bit boring. I get it because it's wiring, right? But we got to get it done, and I'm trying to get the information to you guys. So let me show you what I got going on now that I got the dash ready to go and pre-wired. So hopefully this is enough lighting for you guys. So this is what I got going on. I finished tying in the rest of the components in to the wiring inside the car, along with the AC and the fuel pump module. So a lot of you guys had a little bit of questions about this fuel pump module. I mounted it up here, went ahead and mounted it up here, have it flowing down through here, and then there's one wire that you're going to have to connect that goes back to the front of the car. It's this guy right here, this blue wire, blue and orange wire. All I did is extended it and have it running through the firewall and through the front of the car. There's a wire up there that you got to hook up to the factory harness, I should say the Mopar harness, and that's it. But you also have the lead that comes off of that as well. You got your power lead with your fuse, and then it comes back here. Then you have the relay. I mounted it here, boys, because for one, he said he's not going to be running windshield wipers, and so we mounted it there. It's kind of was the best spot as far as the wiring harness laced in. Not ideal, but it works. So also all our grounding posts, you guys remember that grounding post when we ran the wire, this guy right here, and we mounted it here? This is that post from factory. All I did is kind of ground it down a little bit to make sure we had good contact for the body, to ground the body as well from the battery. Not to mention it makes a great point for all the other grounds from these harnesses, because we want to make sure we have a good ground, and that's not an issue when it comes to these electronics. So what I did is use this post, and this is, I guess, the one that used to hold the factory AC box, but no longer needed because you guys can see we have the vintage air. Now, as far as the wiring harness from this guy here, the tranny, and also from the factory harness and the Mopar harness, I got them all kind of sitting right here, and I did this on purpose. For one, it kind of makes everything easy to get to, and if we ever need to troubleshoot, we can see exactly what's going on. Not to mention, you guys can see I left them with a little bit of wires exposed because we want to see what wires they were. If you guys are using the American Auto wire harness, you guys are going to end up having a couple connections that have to come back into the firewall and onto these harnesses. For example, we talked about on the last video on these wiring harness, you had this wire here, this blue and like tan wire, and that was your starter, correct? So you're actually going to have a yellow wire from factory, at least with this American Auto wire harness. That's the yellow wire, and that's what hooks up to that for your starter. Now your ignition wire is a little bit different from the Mopar harness. You had the pink wire. Now you're going to have two wires that actually hook up to that. You're going to have ignition feed, and then this 12 volt key on as well from the engine side. It's a brown, really thick brown harness, or I'm sorry, really thick brown wire. So you're actually gonna have both of those tie into that one pink wire. So that's that, right? And then we have obviously constant power. You guys remember that. And then the park neutral safety switch, that green wire coming off the Mopar harness, that's the one we hook up to the pink wire from German Sound Automotive. Now, speed, what else we got here? Brake, and then reverse light. The reverse light's really important, guys. I want to go over that here in a sec. But those, I kind of extended them here, and the reason why is because the other half of this is actually on the harness. You guys can see I put some nice pigtails, so that way they quickly disconnect on and off when you remove the dash. Now, I did not have, I believe, a pink wire, so we used the green wire for that reverse light. This guy here, that's going to hook up to your brake lamp, and that'll just extend over to the brake pedal with the quick release. I'll show you guys on the dash. So there's that. The orange one's just kind of there for a backup for the speed output if we need it. But you guys can see I mounted this guy right here because I mocked up our floor center console, and it looks like it fits on here just fine, along with this guy here that'll plug into the shifter itself. But let's move over to the dash and show you guys what's going on with the dash. There she is, boys. There she is. We got a few little things, believe it or not, to finish up on the dash. I was waiting on the radio bezel here. I think it just came in, so we can put the radio back in. so we can have that pre-wired. Also, we got to finish up a few of the AC ducts that are probably going to go mounted on the bottom of this guy, because this one did not have AC from the factory, so it had a cover on it. And then I want to talk to you guys about this relay here. Super important, something that I found out recently. And reverse lights, reverse lights, reverse lights, reverse lights. Boys, a lot of you guys put this stuff in and you guys never have those working. So what I found out is that we talked about that transmission harness, that light, I should say, that wire that comes off of that for the reverse lights, believe it or not, it's a ground trigger, boys. It's a ground trigger. And as you all know, reverse lights usually have these two colors here. It's a pink and a green. The greens are usually the ones that go back to the back of the car to the actual lights. The pink is actually just a hot 12 volts. So what's happening is, on a normal car, you would have a mechanical style switch where when the car would go into gear, it'd go into reverse. It would actually take these two and make a full connection, make a full circuit, and just have basically add power to that green wire and complete the circuit. But with this case, with the new transmission, you're going to just have a ground signals, and that's not going to work for that. So what we did is actually we pulled it off this connector here. We depinned it. This is the connector from American Auto Wire. We depinned it out of there, took those two leads, and then put them back into a relay circuit. So now we have to have a relay circuit in order to activate those reverse lights. So how this is going to work is you're going to just have a standard, maybe a 30 amp relay, nothing crazy, but you're going to have 4 wires. It's all you're going to use. And usually, like any other wire, you're going to have a trigger, you're going to have a power, you're going to have a destination as well. So in this case, our pink wires coming off the stock relay, I should say the stock harness, to the relay, you're going to have the 2 pink wires. Those are going to go into pins 86 and 30 on the relay. And then you're going to have the green, which is the end point there, the ones that are going to actually receive the power from the relay. Those are going to be in pin 87. Both of those are going to go into pin 87. And then you're going to have the actual wire coming off the transmission, which we already made the connector you guys saw earlier. And it's just going to plug into this guy here. And that's going to be our ground signal, which is going to be pin 85. So just keep that in mind, boys. You're going to have to, this is the only way you'll be able to make these work with that 8HP90. You got to have a relay in place to send that signal and create the circuit that this used to create. But other than that, boys, I think we got pretty much everything else wired in here. We're going to go over a few little things, like I said, with the radio and stuff like that. But we should be able to slap this in this video. Yeah, buddy. Boys, that was a chore. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. That was insane. This dash weighs like 800 pounds, like no BS. Like, you guys saw me struggling with this thing, and I can't believe how much this thing weighed. Like, obviously, once we have all the components on, this thing weighs a ton, boys. But we got it in, I should say, somewhat in. We got to go still plug in all our electrical. You guys can see all the electrical still not plugged in, not to mention all the AC vents we got to do as well. Guys, I found out the hard way. I told you guys I've never touched a Mopar before, ever. And one of the main issues I had was that steering column had to be out, and then there's these little studs that come off the metal part of the car. I don't know what you want to call it. And you have to like put them through a hole underneath that column, and then up and over the lip of the top of this thing here, up here under the windshield. Like, it's kind of crazy. I don't understand the concept behind that. You cannot have the windshield in when you're putting the dash in, or on and off. Like, I don't get that. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of a crappy design, if you ask me. You have to take off the windshield to take the dash off. I don't know how else would you have taken those screws out, but let me know if you guys know in the comments below. I've never messed with the Mopar, but we still got, I need a latch for this glove box. It's kind of just sitting there. We need to get a latch for that, obviously steering wheel and all that jazz. But let me go ahead and plug all this wiring in real quick. Not real quick, but let me plug everything in and see if I can get everything kind of tucked up underneath. Maybe even do the AC vents real quick as well. So we hit a snag here, and you guys can see I got the console kind of sitting there mocked in a little bit, and I come to realize that we're not gonna be able to put that center AC duct. Like, originally, obviously this car did not have AC from the factory, and that's what's causing this issue, because that pad's there, right? That's where the AC vents would have been. I mean, in theory, we could have try to track one down, I guess, with the AC vents, but it's not my car. And Paul had this pad already all upholstered, so we put that on not thinking twice about it, and we got that AC vent done down there. We got this one down here ready to go with the duct. Went to do the middle one, and yeah, not gonna work because that center console has to really sit nice and tuck underneath there. But an alternative, which is not be too bad, other than obviously ripping apart this dash again, which I really don't want to do. The center console obviously has this little area where the old stock charger stuff would sit at, like this stuff here that's no longer going to be used. It might not be a bad idea to just put the AC vents in the center console. Might not be too bad. Might be very doable, actually. All you have to do, really, you guys can see, it looks like we'd have to notch this back here and then get these to fit nice and snug, and then cut the back side of the center console for air ducts to come in, which is not terrible. And then maybe have this thing rework with some fiberglass and then paint it, or even put some fabric on it. So I think that might be the best alternative, honestly, in my opinion. I've thought about maybe even here where this ashtray sits, but the problem is where the ashtray sits, there's probably room for one vent. That's it, not two. Wouldn't be really ideal unless we got a huge vent that we can put there somehow. But I think this would actually wouldn't be bad. That would probably look pretty good as long as we rework this panel. But tell me what you guys think, boys. It is finally starting to look like a car, man. This thing is looking good. Digital gauges in there. Obviously, I don't have the battery hooked up yet. I can't really show you any of that stuff yet. I do have to hook up one more wire here. I have to take this old connector off and put a new one on there for the American Auto wire harness. And then we have that one connector down there to hook up, and that's it. Everything else is pretty good to go. As far as the dash goes, we are waiting on a latch for that glove box. But other than that, boys, I think it looks good. It is coming along. It's finally looking like a car. We do got to get a steering wheel in here as well, but it's definitely a lot easier to work with it off. So we're doing that. But hopefully here soon, boys, we're going to work towards the front of this car and try to get that oil cooler finished up as well. But I just wanted to get the wiring buttoned up. Well, boys, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and hit the bell for notifications, because my butt is sweating over here. And stay wrenching.